Welcome to the Travel Business Unpacked, where passion meets possibility. Here's your host, Meredith Calloway.
Well, hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Travel Business Unpacked podcast. On today's episode, we have another Top Producer Club member, Mary Jennifer Markham with MMarkham Travel. Welcome to the podcast today, Mary Jennifer.
Thank you. I'm so glad to be here.
It's so fun to have you here because there's a lot of things that are special about MJ, as we all call her here. I guess that's what your friends and family call you too.
Yeah.
Yeah. MJ went through our Travel MBA program. What year did you do the Travel MBA program?
It was March of 22.
22.
Yes, March 22.
Yep. So you are a post-pandemic graduate
Yes.
of the Travel MBA program. Let's go ahead and just get started with let me give you a better introduction. So MJ is somewhat famous within our community because she is the first person in our community who went through our Travel MBA program and exceeded $1 million in sales in her first year of being with us. If we had like the cue to do a little applause, golf clap for that. You deserve it. Which is pretty amazing. We define $1 million in sales as achieving phase 4 of the business. And it's our philosophy that there are 4 phases to the travel business. And without the right guidance and without the right program and without the right community, most people who just kind of wing it in the travel business get to phase 1 or phase 2, but never make it to phase 3 or 4. MJ made it to phase 4 within 12 months of being in our program. So she's a little bit of a high achiever. Something tells me you've always been a high achiever.
That might be true.
And she's stayed there, and she's continued to grow. And you did that all by yourself. That was even before you hired anybody, correct?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, she did all by herself, and that's the other thing. She's continued to grow because she's leaned into hiring a team, which we'll dive into in a little bit. And she's just a very valued member of our Top Producers Club community because she's very open and willing to share her experiences. She's willing to share about skill sets that she has brought with her from her existing career. And she's just fun to be around. So, the first question I have for you is I always like to start these interviews with a question about like, what did your life look like and career look like before you embarked on this entrepreneurial journey selling travel? And specifically for you, what did that look like? And also, how did you satisfy your I felt like it was insatiable for me. Maybe I shouldn't give it to you, but your appetite for travel. How did you satisfy that before you embarked on this journey?
I came about this a little differently, maybe. I am a physician, and I am specifically an oncologist, and my practice is limited to women with gynecologic cancers. And I still work in an academic medical center. And at the time that I'm going to sort of, I guess, talk about maybe the year prior to me getting involved, because I think that probably had the most bearing. All through my career as an oncologist, what I have learned is that I really needed travel in my life to allow me to maintain balance in my career. And really, when I say balance, what I mean is that sort of emotional rebalancing to remember who I am as a person and not get so bogged down in the emotional demands of my medical practice, which in oncology can be pretty demanding. So it was my pattern to try to incorporate travel at least once a quarter, even if it was just a long weekend away. as my kids got older and able to experience the world a little bit more with us, we started taking an international trip in the summers with them. And then that eventually grew, of course, to a spring break trip and a summer trip. And over the course of time, my medical career, I progressed into leadership roles at my institution. And so in the year prior to me becoming or joining in the travel industry, I'd say probably actually the 18 months prior, I was the chief of a division of hematology and oncology at my institution. And I had another leadership role in the cancer center, still seeing patients. My kids were high school and middle school, and then high school and starting college. And I was very busy. And I couldn't travel as much as I really wanted to. So what I did was I planned my trips, and then I really got involved when friends were traveling and wanted to travel, and just loved helping friends sort of create their itineraries. And then the pandemic happened, and all of my vacations, of course, got canceled. And what struck me on a personal level was that I really missed having that trip to look forward to. It was I realized exactly how important it was to my longevity in medicine was having a vacation planned. And my way of vacationing was always to try someplace new. So I needed that sort of refreshing experience and exploration to rejuvenate me as an oncologist. And that went away. So at the same time, I was learning what the loss of travel meant to patients that I was taking care of. And I felt selfish that I was sad about my own vacations that were canceled when I realized that all of my patients who were at the end of life um, were never going to have the opportunity again. Because at the time, we didn't know what the pandemic was going to lead to and who would come out of it and when, if at all, the world would open back up to travel. So these things sort of converged on me as I was sort of grappling with being a physician during the pandemic. And I realized in 21, after the vaccines had come out, that I was starting to see a little bit of light at the end of the tunnel for travel. I think Hawaii had just opened its doors, and so we planned our first trip back to Hawaii since the pandemic started. And I loved planning that trip to Hawaii. It was the first time I've been able to plan since the pandemic, and it was amazing. But that was it. I couldn't travel more than that. So I decided that I really wanted to do something in the travel industry. I didn't know what that would look like. I had no idea how to do that other than plan, because that's what I was comfortable doing as an individual. But I knew I needed to incorporate it somehow. It was just that important to me psychologically to be able to plan trips, even if I couldn't travel on the trip. The planning piece and the daydreaming and the researching and all of that fun stuff. So in July of 21, probably a week before we headed off to Hawaii, I asked my husband one night at dinner. It was our anniversary dinner. And I'm like, God, I wonder what it would take to become a travel advisor. How fun must that be? And he looked at me and probably ignored me at the time. And then a light bulb went off. And I thought, I wonder what it does take to become a travel advisor. And the next day, I created my LLC and just started researching and diving in. So my initial foray into the industry was jumping on as a new self-declared travel advisor with zero knowledge, learning it just by what I could find online, and joining what turned out to be the wrong host agency for me. But that's how I came to it.
What I love about your story is you had so much self-awareness. And then I love how quickly you take action. And I think that's probably one of the secrets to success for you is so many people just let all of the doubts and fears when they get that idea stop them and hold them back and procrastinate. And it seems like you don't. So why is that? Unpack that for me. How do
Ugh.
you think you've developed that inner muscle?
I don't know exactly. I know that when I look back at the way I was brought up, my father was very similar. He had lots of interests and he would dive really deep into whatever his interest was. And it drove my mother crazy. They tended to be hobbies and sometimes expensive hobbies. But I love that about him. And I think that maybe I inherited that from him. My husband is a lot more cautious than I am, and I'm referring back to him a lot in this conversation because um, we are so different, and part of my quickness to jump into things is always balanced by me
Mm,
listening to him and some of his advice and common sense, and sometimes
mhm.
just ignoring that and making the decision anyway. But I love a challenge. And one of the things that I've always tried to listen to for my own personal growth and professional growth is if something is challenging and it makes me a little bit uncomfortable, but also excited, I need to do that thing. I need to
Mm,
get into it and see what it is that's exciting and also get through that discomfort because that's when I learn. And I love learning more than anything. I love learning. That's
yeah.
my favorite thing to do.
And I think without realizing it, you've developed a very keen ability to take inspired action. Um, sounds like you wait for the inspiration before you actually act. You're not just like routinely acting and got your head, down on the ground and just moving forward, take action no matter what until I'm exhausted, which a lot of people do. So let's talk about your first year in the Travel MBA program because you said you first started with the wrong host agency when you didn't know at the time it was the wrong host agency. How would you define that now? Like what made that the wrong fit for you?
So it was a combination of two things. It was it was wrong for me because it didn't offer really a level of professionalism and the support and education that comes with joining a professional organization, whether that's an employer or host agency or a professional organization in the terms of a national society like ASTA, for example. It didn't have that sense about it, and that I should have recognized was really not the right fit for my own personality. The other piece to it was that I went with one that charged a low monthly fee,
Mm.
and I know better than that. I'm a big believer that you get what you pay for, and I got exactly what I paid for. So um, I realized pretty quickly that it was the wrong agency or wrong host for me when I was really doing a lot of do it yourself learning, which is fine. I'm a do it yourself learning kind of person, but um, I really wanted to learn more about starting the business and
Mhm.
how to be successful at the business, not just how to book a Disney trip
Yeah.
or a cruise. I wanted to be able to do more than just book a trip. I wanted to really grow a business. I didn't realize
Mhm.
that when I started, and it only took me, um, it took me time to sort of realize what the possibilities were.
Yeah.
And I came to GTN through finally going back and doing the proper research on the different types of hosts and the different types of professionalism and professional opportunities and educational opportunities that different hosts provided. I knew that
Right.
I wanted to be with Virtuoso. I had traveled as a traveler with a Virtuoso advisor previously. I had worked with a Virtuoso advisor, and that was very important to me. And I think it's like many things, it's this stamp of this
Yeah.
agency, this hotel has met a bar of excellence. And I
Yeah.
needed that bar of excellence.
You obviously self-identify as a go-getter, probably high achiever. And that's, I mean, we built our program for high achievers, and there's nothing wrong with not being a high achiever. But that's not who our program's for, right? So it's cool that you found the right program. And so in that first year, you achieved something that nobody else in our program has achieved yet. I do believe we will have others, and that's why I called you the first to do this, not the only. Um, and maybe by the time people are listening to this, we will have others who have done it. But you know, what would you attribute your success to in the first year, um, over what other, far from average results, basically?
I think that, well, I had a very good client number one.
Yeah.
And this was a friend
Okay.
of mine who loved to travel. And I was able to plan a couple of trips. She was willing to take the chance on me. And I asked her before planning, I said, you realize I'm very new. I've done this non-professionally, but I would love to plan your trip and let's see if we can
Mhm.
work together. And she was so enthusiastic and let me plan it. And in hindsight, that trip was not at the level that I would have preferred it to be, but she loved it. She had an amazing time. And so I think that I dove in with this love of doing the work and love of researching. And I took way too much time to do research, and I spent, lots of time getting into the weeds, but I needed to do that as part of my
Yeah.
my learning process. Um, I worked a lot. I would come home from my regular medicine job and work nights, and I would work weekends, but to me, it didn't feel like work. It still doesn't feel like work. It still feels like fun.
Yeah.
And it served the purpose of really balancing out this medicine career in a very different way that I needed. And I didn't realize I needed until I was really in it. Um, I, I was able to capitalize on the network of people that I knew in my career in medicine. I didn't set out to use that network. I didn't really know what that meant because I hadn't come from a host agency that really
Yeah.
taught me what that meant. But I did recognize the value of word of mouth and referrals. And so with my wonderful client number one, um, she is very generous. And I asked if she'd write a review, and she said, I would love to do that. And so she shared a summary of a trip that I planned for her in a Facebook group that we're both in with women physicians. And I think I did another trip for her, and she shared again. And then she gave my name to some friends of hers, and that really snowballed. And so in that first year, most of my clients, with the exception of maybe one or two, were physicians. And they were mostly women physicians who came to me from word of mouth. And it really has just grown from there. I would say that still probably, 85 to 90% of our clients are physicians. And it's really through that word of mouth. I think doing a wonderful job and being of service to someone in planning their trip and, getting them to their destination and home and connecting with them and building those relationships, I think has really been key in having other people sent our way.
So I don't really believe in luck. So what I love about that response and your story is that you said it already, you get what you pay for. And when you took that leap of faith to invest a lot more than, a couple $100 a year
Yeah.
into a program that was going to guide you on this path to building this legitimate, lucrative, life-changing business, selling travel. Um, I bet you anything that there was an energetic lift that you benefit from because you invest in this and you believe in it, and so you're going to have confidence that the clients are going to come. And so, and there's a lot of people out there who have a natural network already, and you did. But once you had stepped into the right program, then you were inspired to actually tap into that, and you had the confidence to do it. So I
Yeah, and
love that.
I actually think I needed that investment because I wasn't just investing. I wasn't just writing a check to GTN and
Right.
forking over money. I
Right.
was making the investment in myself and in my business, and I looked at
Mhm.
it that way. And I did the math, and I figured out what my sales should be to recoup the
Yeah.
cost. And I
Mhm.
told myself going in year one, I just want to break even. I want to cover my costs. And that was my
Yeah.
goal.
Yeah. Well, skin in the
So it
game,
made it fun.
very, very good motivator. And it's years and years ago, I wrote a book, How to Monetize Your Passion for Travel. And subtitle was The 7 Habits of Highly Successful Travel Entrepreneurs. And one of the 7 habits is putting skin in the game, because, and that's true for any entrepreneurial journey. Find a mentor, find a program that, and if it feels like a really steep investment, that's probably a good thing, because,
Yep.
according to some Harvard study years and years ago, people are much more likely to exert themselves to save a dollar lost, or recoup the dollar lost, than they are to go out and try and make the dollar.
Hmm.
I want to talk about, okay, so first year, you know, did a lot of things, made a lot of the mistakes, but you also did a lot of the right things. You leaned into your network, you branded incredibly well. You maybe spent too much time researching, but it was part of the process. You needed to do that. I remember at your first mastermind meeting, it was really cool having you there. We do a mastermind meeting for our top producer club members, and it's a fantastic meeting for people to build relationships with each other, to collaborate. It's a true mastermind event. And I you were full of questions at that meeting, and this was before you had hired anybody. Is that correct?
I think so. Yeah. Or I might have just hired an assistant that I wasn't quite sure
Yeah.
how to work with.
Yeah. And I feel like on your radar in that meeting was, "Oh boy, what have I done?" Like you were like, "I'm up here, but how do I stay here and continue to grow, right?" And I know it was very important for you to continue in your career. You're not ready to make this your full-time thing. This is still part-time, and you still have a full-time career that you love and enjoy. Um, and that's amazing. So, and then when we saw you the second year, it was like a whole new person. So, because you had hired a couple of team members by then, you'd really figured it out. So, can you tell us, like, the difference between MJ at Mastermind Meeting 1 versus MJ at Mastermind Meeting 2, or Markham Travel? Like, the difference. What were some of the monumental breakthroughs for you?
Yeah. So the hiring piece was tricky for me, as I know it is for a lot of people. Because I had built this on my own, and because I knew how I wanted things done, it was tricky for me to delegate and trust that it would happen if somebody else was doing it for me or with me. And
I don't know anybody who's ever thought that before.
nobody ever. And I think I think at that first mastermind, somebody may have pointed out, don't you have a team in your medicine job? And I think in my mind created this false separation of who I am as an oncologist and physician and
Right.
physician leader, and who I am as the owner of a travel agency. And I separated those. And part of that was, I think, an intentional separation, because I'm very cognizant of, you know, devoting, when I'm at work as an oncologist, devoting that time truly to that career and that institution that I work for, and not having conflict of interest or conflict of time. But it had, I think, put me in a corner because I didn't recognize that I actually had some skills outside of just being an oncologist,
Yeah.
that did translate into being able to grow and teach a team. I have been an educator since I've been in medicine, and I'm used to being an educator and mentoring, and had an entire team of people that I work with in the healthcare side. So I think just recognizing that, number one, I had the skill set, I just wasn't translating it to my travel business. And number two, that not everybody wanted to do what I was doing. There were people who really did just want to work in the agency and sell travel or plan trips, but they didn't want to own the agency. They didn't want to have everything branded under their own brand. They really just wanted to work.
Mm-hmm.
And I had a conversation with a young, very smart person at that first mastermind, Kendall Fletcher, and she told me her story, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, this is brilliant." It was really liberating talking to someone like Kendall, who is passionate about what she does, but she doesn't want to own the company. She wants to work in it and thrive. And she made some comment to me about how if we just give somebody young and enthusiastic a chance, or just somebody enthusiastic a chance, they actually will do just fine.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, yeah, actually, you're right, because I've been in your shoes before and I know that to be true. It's just having to recognize that. And so after that, I'm like, you know what, I'm going to do it. I don't know what the training is going to totally look like initially, because I've never hired for this business. But for me to be able to do medicine still full time and to scale the travel business, I had to have people that could work the hours that I was unable to work, because still I'm working evenings and weekends, and I really need somebody to be available during the daytime, Monday through Friday. So I hired simultaneously two travel designers for the team. One
I
in
met, they are amazing.
They're amazing. They're fabulous.
Amazing. They are. They're incredible. I love them. Yeah.
The whole team has done really well.
Yeah.
So I started with my assistant, Susan, and then Zoe and Brody joined in July and August of 23. And then I added an independent contractor in November, December of 23. And then Abby joined in April of 24. And that's where we stand today. So we're a team of 6.
Wow. A team of 6. Do you mind sharing where your sales are through we're through the third quarter of 24 right now?
Yeah. So we are right at about 2.2 million for end of Q3.
That's incredible. It is so incredible. It just gets me so excited, because you're exactly who I feel like when I was journaling about what to build and what to create all those years ago. I feel like you're exactly what I was journaling for and building this for. If you build it, they will come. You were the one I was hoping would show up.
I think what I've loved so much about it is just the entrepreneurial journey. I love the travel, but what I didn't know I loved so much was that entrepreneurial piece, and building the team has been amazing. I do love the teaching and the mentoring of the team. I still love the doing of the travel planning. But it's just so much fun to have my foot in this industry and to have this team. It's my team and we work so well together, and I want to continue scaling, and I want to continue to be an oncologist.
Yes, I love it. How long do you feel like you want to stay in medicine?
I have no idea. I love doing it. I love doing it. What I don't love is what do I not love? I don't love a lot of administrative headaches and hassles that can happen in medicine. And healthcare is sort of heading down this very administrative, bureaucratic pathway. And that's the part I don't love. I love taking care of my patients. So I anticipate that at some point I'll probably cut back and just fill that time with travel
Yeah.
business related things. But I don't know. Right now, my plan is to do both.
There's a part of your story that I know often brings a tear to people's eyes when you talk about it, which is the um, the repetitive conversation you found yourself having with some of your patients, or the repeated conversation.
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yes. And so it's a theme, I think, with anybody at the end of life. And it has been very impactful in my own career, which is that, um, cancer never happens when you're planning for it to happen. It just happens and it's disruptive. And we as Americans, I will say, just broadly, are really, really terrible about prioritizing spending our time with the people we love, doing things that are meaningful to us. We're really focused on just going to work and making the paycheck and paying the bills and getting kids to soccer practice and not really taking that time for ourselves. And I think even if someone comes from low income, there are ways to take that time. And what I've seen in my patients routinely is this regret that they didn't make that time to travel. They didn't think that they thought they would have time later. And that's a
Mm.
constant theme. I think we as humans think, oh, we'll have time to enjoy ourselves later. We'll have time to take that trip when I retire. I'll get to go to Europe
Yeah.
when the kids are off to college. And sometimes that time doesn't come because cancer intervenes. And that's what I saw way too often. And
Yeah.
that was, I think, has been a powerful thing in my own life and probably why I love to travel so much, just personally, is because I'm confronted with that mortality every time I see patients. And um, it's just, I see it all the time. So
Yeah.
I'm a firm believer in you take the trip, you take the time off, you always treat each day as if it could be the last one. I'm a little morbid. Tell my family is used to me saying, okay, so when I die, this is what I'm wanting. Because I think about death all the time. It's just in my work. And so it's morbid, but it allows
Yeah.
me to live each day.
Well, I mean, it's also real. No one escapes death.
That's right. Yeah. We all
It
have
is a
that in
fact.
common.
There's not one person that's, not gonna die. So but I would imagine that, having that in such a, um, prominent place in your awareness that there's this theme of regret, "I didn't take the time," that now when you are planning travel for people, it's even more fulfilling
Oh,
knowing that
yes.
it's one less person that's gonna have that regret.
Yeah. I get sad when I have patients. See, I do that sometimes. Clients, when I have clients who cancel trips for some
Right.
big reason. We recently had clients who were planning this beautiful trip to Europe, and unfortunately, they had some family health issue and had to cancel. And it's heartbreaking because I know it
Yeah.
happens. This is why everybody gets travel insurance. But I I I think I feel that just more. I don't know. I feel it extra because I'm so
Yeah.
in tune to it. And when I talk about my patients in my medical practice, um, travel and vacations are always a part of our conversations. And I'm usually asking people about, what is your plan? You need to plan something and we'll get you there. We'll pause your chemotherapy, we'll time it around your trip, but it's really, really
Yeah.
important that you travel. And
Yeah.
and it's not necessarily, just getting on an airplane going somewhere, but it's really that's where we make such profound memories with our people that we're with, or
Yeah.
even if it's a solo trip, that's where you discover yourself. There's nothing that that's as eye-opening as
Mhm.
travel.
Yeah. Can you tell us about a trip that you have planned and designed and sent someone on, including your own self, that really warms your heart when you think about it? Like you feel like that I did a really good job there, or I made a difference there.
It's hard to think about just one. We do a lot of trips for families, and we try to get our families to do a photography session so that they can actually document those.
Mhm.
And that
Yeah,
comes out of my own family's travels. We do a photo session every place we go
love that.
through Flightographer or something similar.
Yeah.
And I think that to me that those memories, even just made during a 30-minute, 1 hour photo session, are really powerful. So we've started actually incorporating some gifting of photo sessions for many of our clients if they're able to do it.
I love that.
What I love though is when I get those messages, from the clients when they come back was, oh my God, that was amazing. And honestly, it's not that we did anything terribly amazing. We put the pieces
Yeah.
together. They got to spend that time together. That's what was amazing.
Yeah. And in those moments together, there was like a deepening of whatever they have. There's always it
Yeah.
always deepens the bonds and those shared experiences, seeing some things for the first time. I don't know why, but I'm having images of your trip to Africa come to mind
Yes.
as I'm saying this.
Yes,
You
absolutely.
that looked like an incredible trip. That was the summer, right?
It was, and it was amazing, and my husband and I think a lot of parents talk about this with their when they think about taking their kids on trips. Are
Mhm.
are they going to actually enjoy it? Are you gonna get your money's worth when you take your
Yeah,
kids? Are they gonna
right.
remember it? And, I'm a believer that it's in their subconscious from whatever early age,
Yeah.
and my kids have now grown up traveling, and we have the best time, and some of my favorite memories are just, sitting on the patio at this safari lodge in Timbavati, South, Africa, and, watching zebras walk up to the watering hole while we're
Just
having appetizers, and just
yeah.
I can picture myself right there. That's the kind of
Yeah,
memories that I think are just so
incredible.
special about travel.
Well, this has been awesome. This has been amazing. In closing, my last question is, could you have achieved the success that you've achieved without the program, like the Travel MBA program?
I don't think so. I really don't. I think the Travel MBA program and the connections through Gifted Travel Network have been just completely instrumental. A key thing actually is I will say, the executive leadership of GTN and having this amazing woman-owned, woman-run business that models what can be done if you are passionate and enthusiastic and just have ideas and think through them and care and have heart. And
Yeah.
that was really clear from going through the Travel MBA and each meeting and Zoom and conference after that.
Awesome. Awesome. All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. If anybody wants to get a hold of you to plan their next trip somewhere, how can people get a hold of you? Where can they find you?
So the website, www.MMarkham is where everything is located. And then my email address is hello@mmarkhamtravel.com.
Awesome. 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 Thank you so much, MJ. Have a great one.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to the Travel Business Unpacked podcast, where we dive deep into the exciting world of travel entrepreneurship. If you're looking for more, we have some great resources for both aspiring travel entrepreneurs and existing travel advisors. Aspiring travel entrepreneurs, if you're thinking about turning your love for travel into a profitable business and enviable life, take our Travel Entrepreneurial Suitability Score quiz. It's fun and insightful. Just go to travelmba.giftedtravelnetwork.com. Find out if you're ready to professionalize your passion for travel. Current travel advisors. If you've been selling travel but haven't been able to grow your sales beyond $200,000 in a 12-month window of time, our quiz can help there too. Again, you can find that at travelmba.giftedtravelnetwork.com. Advisors looking for a change. If you're seeking an elevated hosting experience for the luxury travel advisor, check us out at giftedtravelnetwork.com. We'd love to chat with you. And with that, we wrap up today's journey. We hope we inspired you today, or at a minimum, put a smile on your face.